Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. My name's Tom. I am your host. Today is Sunday, March 3rd, 2019. I want to thank everybody for listening on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you find podcasts. Make sure you're subscribing, leaving ratings on whatever services you can do that on. And if you ever want to catch the video stream, you can find that on YouTube and Twitch. And thanks to everybody who's following on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Just search Catch, Hook, Shoot. You'll be able to find that. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, as always, that email address is catchhookshoot@gmail.com. Welcome any comments, questions, suggestions, things you want to hear me talk about, things, what you like, what you don't like, anything of that nature. I'm open to it all, so feel free to leave any kind of comments on any social media platforms or anything like that, or shoot me an email and let me know whatever you got to say. Lot of stuff going on this week in pro wrestling, especially on social media, but I'll be getting into that a little bit later on. First, let's kind of break down what's been going on this week on Monday Night Raw. We saw the return of Roman Reigns. Definitely going to get a lot more into that coming up a little bit later today. But Roman is back. Apparently his leukemia is in remission. He made that announcement and that he's returning to the ring. I actually saw him, get into some physical action with Baron Corbin, Elias, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre, alongside his former Shield mates of Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. So definitely planting some seeds there. The rumor is that it will be Roman and Seth versus Corbin, Lashley, and McIntyre at Fastlane coming up. Another rumor saying that Dean Ambrose will be added into that mix, so it'll be a full-on Shield reunion against the four-person team of Corbin, Lashley, McIntyre, and Elias. Wouldn't surprise me to see Braun Strowman thrown in there on the Shield side as well to make it 4-on-4, but the buzz that's out there right now is saying it's going to be a handicap match in one way or the other. We also saw the return to WWE of Batista during Ric Flair's birthday celebration at the end of Raw, when Ric Flair was supposed to make his appearance. Cameras cut to the back. Batista was entering Flair's locker room, and a couple seconds later, dragging Flair out by his coat, basically making it look like, he had physically attacked Flair to get Triple H's attention. So it looks like that's probably, I would assume, is going to be a WrestleMania match, Batista versus Triple H, which has been rumored for a little while. So kind of a surprise that happened this week. They did a pretty good job keeping it under wraps. There was, I want to say, one story that came out Monday afternoon from the Wrestling Observer that Batista was backstage. So it was, little bit of a surprise, but not a huge shock or anything like that. And then also on Raw, Becky Lynch made another appearance and got herself, quote-unquote, arrested and taken out of the arena. Ronda Rousey then basically gave Stephanie McMahon and Vince McMahon an ultimatum that she wants Becky reinstated and put back in the WrestleMania match. So, just progressing the storyline pretty much, and there's been a Twitter war going on between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. It got pretty heated. And a lot of people are thinking that, all this was a shoot and Ronda's really pissed off at Becky. There's a lot of speculation out there about that, and WWE not being happy with some of the language that was used in their back and forth, which I can understand, with the PG era, them not being too pleased about some of the foul language that was going on, mostly coming from Ronda Rousey's side, but they didn't say anything about the beef itself, about the back and forth itself. So I mean, it's, I'm looking at it as it's being used to advance the storyline, which is very smart in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, it's wrestling, guys. It's, it's a public argument on social media. I mean, it is what it is, and I think people are analyzing it a little bit too much, but that seems to be kind of the trend lately. People are just overanalyzing stuff and and just reading way too much into stuff and creating, conspiracies and things like that in their heads when there's really nothing to be found for the most part. But yeah, like I said, Ronda did kind of give an ultimatum to Vince and Stephanie, laid down the belt and walked away. So I don't know if she's no longer the champion. They really haven't said too much about that. We'll probably have to wait till Monday to find out, see if they address that at all, which I'm sure they will. But, this is all pretty much building to what we've known for a little while has been coming, which is a triple threat match at WrestleMania between Ronda, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. and it will be the first ever women's main event for WrestleMania, and for the current time, you could not pick three better women to be in that position. I mean, all three of them are, these are the top three stars in WWE right now. And notice I did not quantify that by saying the top three women stars. They are the top three stars. These are the three that I think there's the most talk going on about. Well, other than Roman's return, but they are the top three in WWE right now, and they have earned more than earned their right to that main event spot. And I gotta say, well done for all three of them, and it's definitely overdue for the women in WWE to be in that position. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all plays out and where it's going to go from here. On the SmackDown side, had kind of another swerve thrown by Vince McMahon. Made kind of the same play that he did with replacing Ronda in the WrestleMania main event. Made the same play with Kofi, taking him out of the Fastlane title match with Daniel Bryan and replacing him with Kevin Owens. Now the word is that this is being done just to kind of build heat and build Kofi up and make him more of a sympathetic babyface, and all signs right now are pointing to him getting that title match at WrestleMania and winning the title, which would be, it would be huge. I know that's something that the fans want to see. Fans are definitely behind Kofi. He just kind of fell into the Elimination Chamber match. Fans ate it up. Kofi, of course, made a great showing. That's not a surprise. He's one of the best in-ring workers that they have in WWE and has been for the last 11 years. But, him getting that main event level WrestleMania spot is long overdue, and him getting a shot with the title to have a championship run at the top of the company is definitely long overdue, and he's more than earned that as well. So I'm really looking forward to this one as well, seeing how this is going to play out. So far, the confirmed, or well, not necessarily confirmed, but the WrestleMania matches that we're looking at so far, the quote unquote main events of Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins, Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan, and the main event of Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. Those three matches I'm very excited to see. So WrestleMania so far I think is shaping up pretty well. Also on SmackDown, we saw the return of the Hardy Boys as a tag team. Matt Hardy, of course, been out of action for a while with a back injury. Was rumored for a while that he was pretty much done, that he wouldn't be cleared to compete anymore because of the spinal issue that he was having, but apparently that's not the case. He was back in the ring with Jeff as the Hardy Boys this past Tuesday, and from what's going around online, the Hardy Boys contracts have been extended by WWE for 1 year. Apparently there was a clause in the contract that WWE chose to exercise, that they could extend that contract for another year at their discretion. So previously it had been reported that their contract was going to be up as of this week. So apparently we are going to see the Hardy Boys around for at least another year, and it looks like they're back in the tag team division, which is good. The tag team division hasn't been getting a whole lot of attention the last few months. Now the last couple of weeks, it looks like they're gonna start trying to build it back up, especially with the recent call-ups from NXT of Gargano, Ciampa, Aleister Black, and Ricochet. Aleister Black and Ricochet have been working as a tag team last couple weeks on Raw and on SmackDown. Wondering if they're going to keep them in that spot or if they're going to have individual runs as well, because quite honestly, I like them as a tag team, but they're I prefer them as individuals. I mean, other people may have a different opinion. That's mine. I like them as individuals, but WWE right now has been using them on the tag team side. Now, as far as Gargano and Ciampa, I think a lot of people would love to see them on the main roster together as DIY, so I have no issue with the two of them being used together at all. Some more online rumors. It looks like Sami Zayn is pretty close to being ready to come back, which kind of contradicts the what he said about being pretty far away from being ready to come back in the ring. But then again, that was a couple months ago that he made that statement. So hopefully it'll be within the next couple weeks. We'll see Sami Zayn back in action. Some interesting news on the creative side, that Dana Warrior, the wife of the late Ultimate Warrior, has been hired by WWE Creative as a writer. Now, supposedly this is not a permanent position. It's more, I guess, kind of like a tryout, so to speak, to see how it works out and how she can do as part of the creative team and things like that. So hey, fresh blood, fresh ideas is never a bad thing. A lot of people were kind of not didn't have a lot of kind words about this online. That oh, she has no experience. Why are they hiring her? Why don't they hire somebody who knows what they're doing? My take on it is who really knows what Dana Warrior's background is. They know that she was the wife of the Ultimate Warrior. That's really all that we as fans know about her. So I'm willing to sit back and see what she can do, and give her a chance. Because really, look at some of the top writers in WWE. I mean, the lead writer for a long time was Michael Hayes, and he had no experience as on the creative side of the business. He was formerly a pro wrestler, a great pro wrestler, one of the all-time greats in the business. But when he was hired on as creative, it was alien territory for him. So, it's not unprecedented for WWE to hire somebody inexperienced in writing for a wrestling company to a creative position. So, she deserves as much of a chance as anybody else, and I'm willing to give it to her. I think a majority of fans are willing to give it to her, but of course, that very loud vocal minority online always has to have something negative to say about everything that goes on in pro wrestling, WWE, and beyond. So it's kind of like it is what it is, and you just kind of have to roll your eyes and say whatever and move on. Some kind of sad news this week. Apparently, Howard Finkel is not doing well health-wise. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Howard Finkel, he was the ring announcer for WWE for many, many years. If you go back and look at all the old WrestleManias, the bald guy with the mustache, with the really deep voice, the one who always made the announcements, and new WWF champion or whatever it might be. That's Howard Finkel, and apparently he's having a bad time health wise. So hopefully it's something that he can recover from. I didn't see a whole lot of specifics, so don't know exactly what the health issue is that he's having, but hopefully it's something that he can come back from. And he's not full time as an announcer with WWE anymore, but he's always done like special events, Hall of Fame, and made appearances here and there and that kind of thing. So hopefully he's able to bounce back, and we'll see him back on WWE TV sometime soon. Another interesting note about The Undertaker. Apparently there was a new trademark filed for the name Dead Man Talking, which sounds like it's going to be a podcast. Now, I don't know if this is going to like be a one-off type of thing, where he's going to do like maybe a one-time podcast with Conrad Thompson during the Starcast weekend or something like that, or if it's going to be another weekly show. Who knows? I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that. Again, some more news on the Raw side. Raw and SmackDown actually. We haven't seen EC3 on TV for almost a month. His last TV appearance was on February 11th, so that's led to some speculation that he might have some backstage heat with somebody. Not a whole lot of information out there about this, so you never know. He may have a minor injury that he's nursing and waiting to get the all clear to get back in the ring. So something to keep an eye on. But of course, anytime somebody disappears from TV for a couple of weeks, it's first thing people say is they've got heat with somebody, with Vince or with Triple H or who knows. But, honestly, no confirmation on that. It's just he hasn't been on TV for a couple of weeks. So like I said, maybe it's some type of minor injury that he's healing up from. Who knows? But I'm sure we'll see EC3 back sometime in the near future. Some more news about Dean Ambrose potentially leaving WWE. Now, WWE actually confirmed that Ambrose was not signing a new contract, which is odd. That's not something WWE typically does. To my knowledge, it's the first time they've ever announced something like that ahead of time, that a superstar wouldn't be re-signing. Normally it's after the fact that, you'll see the announcement, so-and-so has parted ways with WWE or something along those lines. They get future endeavored, basically. But, so this was kind of an odd thing. A lot of people are saying it's a work, just to drum up interest or whatever. The word now is that, with Roman Reigns coming back, they're going to try to get him to kind of talk Ambrose into staying around. So who knows, what part of that is truth and what part is speculation. But, yeah, again, another something to keep an eye on here. Some NXT news. Apparently, Tommaso Ciampa is dealing with a neck injury. and it's questionable whether or not he'll be able to participate in NXT TakeOver on WrestleMania weekend. Now, that would definitely throw a wrench into the works there, just because he is currently the NXT champion, and by all accounts, he was supposed to be going against Johnny Gargano at that NXT TakeOver. So I'm not sure how they would move forward from there. I mean, I would think, something like that, if he is injured to where he can't compete, they would have to just kind of take the title off of him and find a way to put it on a new champion, whether that's a tournament or just take like the top 2, 3, 4, however many contenders, throw them in a match and crown the winner the champion for NXT TakeOver. Who knows? I mean, I could see it going that direction. They don't really have enough time to set up a tournament. We've got just over a month until WrestleMania, so I could see them taking like Gargano, Velveteen Dream, Adam Cole, and maybe like Matt Riddle or somebody like that, putting them in a 4-way match for the championship. So again, kind of a wait and see situation to see how they handle it. Some more interesting stuff from NXT on this past week's NXT TV. Bayley and Sasha made an appearance at Full Sail, which was kind of a cool surprise for the people in attendance. Came in talking about the women's tag team championships, and apparently those titles are going to be defended across all WWE brands. So they'll be they're saying they're going to defend them in NXT, Raw, SmackDown. I would assume NXT UK as well. So I that's something I am definitely on board with. I think I've said many times, I think there are too many titles. I think the top titles should, there should just be one top champion in each division, men, women, tag teams, to be defended across all brands. So it looks like that's what they're doing with the women's tag team titles, which to me is really cool. Some Impact news. Madison Rayne was released from her Ring of Honor contract and has apparently re-signed a multi-year deal with Impact Wrestling. So the Knockouts division over there just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And she's definitely a good, veteran presence to have in that locker room for the Knockouts division, because they do have a lot of younger talent. And Madison Rayne, of course, was with Impact for a lot of years. So I'm curious to see how she's going to fit into the mix on the women's side on Impact. The brackets for the New Japan Cup were announced this past week. The winner of the tournament gets a title match versus Jay White at the G1 Climax event in Madison Square Garden on WrestleMania weekend. First round matchups are paired up like this. We've got Yuji Nagata and Tomohiro Ishii. Tomoki Hanma versus Taichi, Nakanashi versus Yoshihashi, Juice Robinson versus Chase Owens, Okada versus Michael Elgin, Mikey Nichols versus Hikuleo. I'm sorry, I don't. Some of these names I'm not familiar with. Most of them I am, but there's a couple that I don't know too well. Will Ospreay versus Bad Luck Fale, Toa Henare versus Lance Archer, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Shota Umino, Hiroshi Tenzan. His opponent is noted as to be determined, so I'm wondering, curious to see who they put in that spot, especially with some of the recent releases from WWE. Could this possibly be the New Japan debut of Kenta, formerly known as Hideo Itami? I think that'd be kind of a cool surprise. Kota Ibushi versus Naito, Evil versus Zack Sabre Jr., Togi Makabe versus Colt Cabana. Really cool to see Colt Cabana in the tournament, Chicago guy there. Toru Yano versus Davey Boy Smith Jr., Kojima versus Suzuki, Goto versus Sonata. So that's the first round. Definitely a stacked tournament there. A lot of big names. As far as my pick, I'm always partial to Kazuchika Okada. He is my top New Japan guy. He is my absolute favorite in New Japan. So I'd love to see him. I think him versus Jay White would be a pretty good match, not only for the IWGP Championship, but there's definitely a lot of backstory there with Okada and the Bullet Club and with Jay White. So have to see how that breaks down. So definitely going to be keeping a close eye on that. So now I kind of want to get into the big story of the week, which has been Roman Reigns' return. Of course, everybody knows by now he came out Monday night, made a big speech to the crowd, announced that his leukemia is currently in remission, and he's coming back to the ring, which I think 99% of people out there thought this was great. It's great that he's healthy, and he's able to come back, and he seems to still be in great shape. I mean, you can tell looking at him, he drops a little bit of weight. I mean, he hasn't withered away. He's not like a walking skeleton or anything like that. But, compare his first speech when he announced that his leukemia had come back, had relapsed, and the speech where he's announcing that it's in remission. You can tell he has lost a little bit of weight. He's, looks like he hasn't, obviously he hasn't missed any workouts or anything. If you follow him on social media, you can see that. But, a lot of people out there are just thinking this whole thing is a work. He was never sick, and, it was all just done to get him over and give him time off to film the movie role that he had, and then the Rock's new movie, the Fast and Furious spinoff, Hobbs and Shaw. And, honestly, it's ridiculous for people to think that. Number one, the biggest thing for me in all this is WWE is a business. It's a publicly traded worldwide company, first and foremost. So, businesses are not above pulling a fast one like this. Don't get me wrong on that one. I'm not that naive to think that there aren't underhanded business things going on. But, this is something that would really destroy WWE as a company. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think the people that are saying these kind of things really have any real business sense. And I'm not saying that as a knock. It's not everybody has a lot of business sense. They don't work in that, in that type of corporate world. They don't have experience with that. So I wouldn't expect them to know. But when you're talking about a company like WWE, you're talking about, you're dealing with stockholders, executives, board of directors. There's a lot of moving parts. This isn't just, a company that is run by one person who makes every single decision. It doesn't work that way. Now, before they went public, it did. Vince McMahon was the end-all, be-all. It's not the case anymore. They have corporate sponsors. They have charity partners. They do so much work with cancer charities that it's ridiculous, and Make-A-Wish and things like that. If it ever comes out that this was a stunt to get Roman Reigns over, just so that fans would like him and would cheer for him, WWE is finished as a business. I'm not saying they'll instantly go into bankruptcy or anything like that, but it would be, I've said it many times online, it would be corporate suicide. Their stock prices would take a nosedive. Their ticket sales would drop. Their merchandise sales would plummet. Pay-per-view buys would go down. Network subscriptions would go down. All those sponsors and their charity partners and their advertisers, that's all out the window. They would, be completely ostracized, but nobody'd want to touch them with a 10-foot pole because of something like this. And, I don't think a lot of people realize either that Vince McMahon, yes, he's the chairman, he's president of the company, he's the majority stockholder, but he still has to answer to a board of directors. And he is, in a position to where if he is not acting in the best interest of the company, that board of directors can vote him out of power. He will still, own 90% of the company or whatever it is, but he will have no decision-making power whatsoever. He can be removed. Vince can be fired by a vote of the board of directors. So, and Vince McMahon has said many times over the years, no one person is bigger than the WWE. So why would they risk all of these things to get one person over? It makes, from a business standpoint, it makes no logical sense to fake a story like this, pass it off as real. That's the main thing. People love to bring up, well, Vince faked his own death. Well, what about the Katie Vick thing? What about, the Big Show's father's funeral thing? What about Terry Reynolds having a miscarriage? What about Mae Young being pregnant? And none of those is anywhere even similar to this. Number one, none of those were passed off as being real. Let's start with Vince faking his own death, okay? There were 10 different camera angles. It was shot like an old mob movie, and the entire locker room was standing there watching as Vince stepped into the limousine, slammed the door, and blew up. Come on. That was never passed off as a real thing. It's not like they came out and had a funeral for Vince or anything like that the next night. It was like, oh my God, did you see what happened on Raw? And Vince's limo blew up. It was more like, I wonder how this is going to play out. And we didn't get a chance to see it play out because shortly thereafter is when the whole Chris Benoit tragedy happened with his family. Everybody knows what that is. I don't need to go into detail. But immediately after that happened, Vince McMahon came back on TV and flat out said, we're not going to continue with this storyline because of the recent events. It was never intended to be perceived as real. It was, a television angle, period. That's all it was. And the whole Katie Vick storyline, Kane, had sex with a corpse and things like that. Guys, I'm sorry, it was Triple H in a plastic Kane mask, dry humping a mannequin in a coffin. I'm not thinking, that was intended to be taken too seriously. I mean, it's not like they had an actual person posing as a corpse laying in that coffin and had Glenn Jacobs unmasked there at the funeral and, actually defiling the corpse or whatever. It was Triple H in a plastic Kane mask dry humping a mannequin. So, not sure of the correlation there, because one is something that should be taken very seriously, and the other is a mannequin being dry humped in a coffin. I mean, come on, you cannot make that comparison. The Big Show's father's funeral with Big Boss Man stealing the coffin. First of all, the Big Boss Man was driving the Bluesmobile from the Blues Brothers. Go watch the Blues Brothers movie, or just look up clips of it on YouTube if you don't want to take the time to sit down and watch the whole thing. It's an old decommissioned police car with a giant loudspeaker on top. Drives into a cemetery, hooks up a coffin, drives away with the supposed deceased son hanging onto the coffin, being dragged through a cemetery. Again, how people could say that was something that was supposed to be perceived as real is beyond me, because I quite honestly, I've never heard of anything so ridiculous in my life. The Mae Young thing. She was an 80-plus-year-old woman who was supposedly pregnant and gave birth to a rubber hand. Again, where's the correlation between that kind of ridiculousness and a man coming on television telling everybody, my name is Joe, I'm not Roman, I'm Joe, and I've had leukemia for over a decade and it's relapsed? How do you get from an 80-plus-year-old woman giving birth to a rubber hand to something like that? There's no correlation. There's no connection at all. You can't compare one to the other. And all these angles, they're so ridiculous and over the top, and it's obvious to anyone with any kind of common sense. They're not meant to be taken seriously. It's television. It's part of an existing storyline. The storyline with Mae Young was her quote-unquote relationship with Mark Henry, sexual chocolate, whatever. That was the payoff, albeit a bad payoff, to a ridiculous television angle. The same thing with the Big Show's father. It was a payoff to a ridiculous television angle. Vince getting blown up. Katie Vick. It was a payoff to a ridiculous television angle. Roman, Joe, whatever you want to call him, coming out saying, I've had leukemia for 11 years and it's relapsed and I have to take some time away to deal with it, wasn't related to anything that was currently going on in the company. There was no payoff there. He had just won the Universal title and had to relinquish it and leave TV for 4 or 5 months. What was that? What storyline was that in relation to? What storyline was that? What was that the payoff to? So, and of course, this isn't something that can be explained to any of these people that have all these doubts simply because they don't want to hear it. It's one of those things where this, like I said, very loud vocal minority online have the attitude of, I know everything and I'm right, you're wrong, screw you, you're stupid. That's what passes for a discussion or a debate online with these type of people. And, it's frustrating, but it's not really surprising because people have no the a lot of, I shouldn't say people in general, but these type of people that I'm talking about, they have no kind of social skills. They can't have a conversation with somebody because their ego doesn't allow them the possibility of being wrong, or the possibility that they don't know everything. I mean, these are, the ones saying, well, if he has cancer, why doesn't he look like this? Well, maybe go read up a little bit on the type of cancer that he has, the types of treatment that there are, and the fact that this is not a new diagnosis for him. His initial diagnosis was 11 years ago. This was a relapse, and I'm sure it was caught extremely early, because when you have that type of disease and it goes into remission, and that's a key word, remission. He's not cured. He's not cancer free. He's in remission. That means the cancer is dormant for the moment. It's not growing. It's not, advancing. It's been put into check for the time being. That's what remission means. A lot of people don't seem to get that either. Like, oh, how did he get cured so fast? He didn't. He's in remission. He's not cured. He'll never be cured. This isn't something that's curable. It's treatable, not curable. So I think that's a very important part that a lot of people are missing. And like I said, this is not an initial diagnosis to where, we don't know how long it's been going on. We have to, start treating it very aggressively. His initial diagnosis was 11 years ago. And, after you're initially diagnosed and you get treated, you go into remission, you have to get continually tested on a regular basis to make sure that it stays in remission. So when he found out that he had relapsed, I'm sure it was from one of those regular tests that he has to take, and I'm sure it was probably caught early. I mean, I don't know if he has to get tested every 3 months, 6 months, every year, how that works. I don't know. But I do know it's something that they keep a very close watch on, and when it does relapse like this, they start treatment immediately. Now, depending on what type of leukemia it was, that treatment could mean something as simple as taking some pills every day. Check the American Medical Association. Check with the American Cancer Society. These things I'm saying are verified facts. There are types of leukemia that can be treated with pills. And, they don't cause the weight loss and the hair loss. And that's not a guaranteed thing to happen with chemo or radiation if that's the therapy you use in any way. Leukemia can actually cause people to gain weight. I mean, and again, these are verified facts from the American Cancer Society, the American Medical Association, cancer patients who've written their stories online, doctors, actual sources that have knowledge of these things, not just spouting off, well, you're supposed to lose weight, you're supposed to lose your hair, you're supposed to be bedridden. No. Again, another verified fact from the American Cancer Society. Patients are encouraged to continue as normal a life as possible. Be active, do things, keep going to work. Don't just lay around in bed. That's the old way of thinking. The old way of, treating is, basically saying, quote unquote, you have cancer, go to bed. No, it doesn't work that way anymore, guys. Seriously, read something. Don't go by what you see on Grey's Anatomy and ER and all this other stuff. And even what you see, these inspirational stories of people battling back and things like that. The pictures and the videos that you're shown are always when these people are at their worst. It doesn't show cases like Romans that can be put back in check within a matter of months or weeks. Again, I don't know what else to say, because like I said, everything I've said here is verifiable fact. I invite anybody, go on the websites for the American Cancer Society, go on the website for the American Medical Association, talk to a doctor, talk to a cancer patient, or more specifically a leukemia patient who maybe has a form of leukemia that's not super aggressive, that doesn't put them into that debilitated state, that has lived with it for a decade, 2 decades, and things like that. But again, this very loud, vocal minority online refuse to listen to or even read any type of facts. You present them with information, and it's more like, nope, I'm right, you're wrong. I know what cancer does, even though I've never had it, don't know anybody that's ever had it, never talked to my doctor about it. Nope, I know because this is what happens because I see commercials for Make-A-Wish, and, I see people laying in bed and all frail and broken down and, with no hair and things like that. Okay, so you've seen the absolute worst side of cancer, as we all have. And I'm not just blowing smoke here, guys. I do have some knowledge of cancer, not leukemia, but, my own father passed away of lung cancer many years ago. So, yeah, I've seen how bad it can be. I've seen how bad it can debilitate people firsthand. But, it's not 100% all the time that way. That's the whole point here. You know, Everybody says, he took time off to make a movie. He has a cameo in The Rock's movie. He's not the star. He's not in the entire movie. He shot his scenes for that movie in less than a week. If I'm not mistaken, I think I read online he was only in shooting for a day. He also did a cameo on a television show. Okay, that's another day. So 2 days out of those 4 months, he was, working in movies and TV. That's not unheard of. I mean, like I said, they do tell patients, stay active, stay busy, stay healthy, eat right, exercise, and keep a good mental outlook. That's a huge part of cancer treatment nowadays, is keeping a person's spirits up, keeping their mental outlook positive, and staying healthy and active and getting exercise. It's not, as I said, you have cancer, go to bed. It doesn't work that way anymore, guys, and it hasn't for a while. But and then a lot of people like to talk about, well, WWE has used deaths in the past to advance storyline. Okay, but we're not talking about death. Nobody ever said Roman was dying. That's the thing. He came out and said, my leukemia is back. He didn't say I'm dying. He didn't say I'm going into hospice care so I can, wither away or anything like that. He said my leukemia is back and I have to walk away for a while. That was it. Nobody ever said he was dying. Nobody said he was on his deathbed. I mean, it's a shocking thing to hear that somebody you see on TV every week is sick like that. But, and I think a lot of people's minds automatically, they think the worst. They hear, leukemia, they hear cancer, and they equate it with death. That's the whole thing. It's all in how people perceive it. And they, people perceive it as like, okay, well, he has leukemia, he's going to die. And then he comes back 4 weeks later, looking good, feeling good, saying he's in remission. It's like, oh, it must have been a big lie. No, why? Because you say so? And I don't even think these people would be satisfied if Roman's medical records were released out there. They would just come back and say, oh, they're forged and things like that. And number one, WWE cannot release Roman's medical records. That would be highly illegal on their part. And, as far as Roman's part of that, why should he release his personal information to people who, as I said, are just going to continue to crap on it and say, oh, it's forged, it's fake, it's, I still don't believe he was sick. It's not going to prove anything to anyone. So there's nothing that can make any of these people believe that he was actually sick. The only thing that would make these people believe that there's anything wrong with Roman Reigns is if he dies. Then maybe you'll hear some of them say, oh, I guess I was wrong. And I doubt it even then. They'll still say, oh, I still don't think he was really sick. He must have died from something else. It's impossible to please any of these people. So there's no point in trying. Let them have their little moment, and, they want to, basically all they're doing is looking for an argument. And I'll admit, I've given it to a couple of them in the last week or so, and not anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to play into anybody's crap anymore, or anything like that. I mean, it is what it is. People are just stupid and cynical and mistrusting of everything, and don't believe anything that's presented to them, other than what's in their own heads, because they figure, well, that's all I can trust is my own opinion. Okay, fine. Sounds like a lonely, sad, empty life to me. So you can have it, because I want nothing to do with it. So now if I see anybody making those kind of negative comments on social media, they just simply get muted or blocked or whatever, so I don't have to see it, because I have no time for that kind of negativity, and I have no desire to deal with it. And this show today is pretty much going to be the last mention I make of it. But just a couple more points here. Number one, like I said, people always make mention of WWE using deaths in their storylines before, like Paul Bearer, Jim Neidhart, Reid Flair. What they seem to be missing, again, like I said, nobody said Roman was dying, so I'm not sure why this even gets brought up. But Paul Bearer, Jim Neidhart, Reid Flair, all the storylines that they were used in after their passing was involved their family members. Jim Neidhart's death was used as part of a storyline with Natalya and Ruby Riott. And you're not gonna sit here and tell me that Natalya had no choice. It was just like we're using your dad's death in the storyline and you have nothing to say about it. Just go out there and do it. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. I mean, because WWE could get sued for using these persons, for slander, libel, whatever you want to call it. They could be opening themselves up for a lot of legal trouble. Reed Flair's name was used in a storyline between Charlotte and Paige. Paul Bearer was used in a storyline between CM Punk and The Undertaker. These were done with the blessing of the family to give them, one more kind of hurrah, one more active, quote-unquote, role in a storyline for the WWE. And, I think for the most part, it's something that the family gave their permission for, and pretty much, I would think, said, you know what, I think this person would love being able to be in one more story. So, you really can't draw any comparisons with that either. And all this stuff that I've talked about, yes, WWE has had some very morally questionable storylines over the years, to say the least. And Vince McMahon, by all accounts, is not, the nicest guy in the world. I mean, I'll say it flat out, and I said this online. He is a prick. He is underhanded. He is ruthless. He'll do almost anything to make sure his business is successful. But the one thing he is not is a stupid man. And you would have to be very, very stupid to use something of this nature to have one of your stars come out and say lie and say I have leukemia as a storyline to get him over, to get people to cheer for him. You would have to be completely stupid. Simple as that. And like I said, that's one thing Vince is not, is stupid. He may be out of touch, he may be sneaky, underhanded, whatever you want to call him. He's not a stupid man. He did not build the biggest sports entertainment company in the world from the ground up by being stupid. So, and another thing, this type of fraud, think about the number of people that would have to be involved to get something like this, to pull something like this off. Between Vince and Roman and the other guys in the locker room, you're talking about Roman having to lie to his family, or you're accusing his family of lying for him as well, but you're talking about Roman lying to his family, his wife, his kids, his mother, his father, Sika, that huge Samoan family. You're talking about the Rock, the biggest star, just mainstream star in the world. You're talking about him involving himself in something like this and risking his career to what? To get one guy over? I mean, like I said, besides just the people in the wrestling business, you're talking about, the WWE executives, writers, board of directors, sponsors, partners, the mainstream media. It would require cooperation from all of those different sides, plus the doctors would have to be involved and things like that. Any doctor involved in something like this would lose their license to practice medicine. And if you've got that many people involved in that big of a conspiracy, somebody's going to talk. This day and age of pro wrestling, where nothing is secret, everything is leaked, there's a spoiler for everything, somebody would have talked. So, why is this the one thing that a wrestling company can keep a lid on, but everything else leaks? Somebody tried to say online, oh, well, the Batista thing didn't leak. Yeah, it did. Meltzer reported on that afternoon. It leaked. So, and this has been going on for 5 months. It would have leaked by now. Somebody would have said something. Somebody would have gone to Dave Meltzer or some other dirt sheet and said, that this whole Roman thing is fake. Break the story. Just to make themselves rich, or to get themselves some type of attention. Hasn't happened. The only way to pull something like this off would be if the only ones who knew about it were Vince McMahon and Roman Reigns. That's it. And even then, the old saying goes, the only way two people can keep a secret is if one of them's dead. So I don't know. I don't see it. And like I said, that would involve Roman lying to his family, his friends, his children, his wife, the other wrestlers in the locker room, the fans, the mainstream media, just and for what? Again, like I said, Vince McMahon is not going to take that kind of risk for one person. No one person is bigger than WWE. That's been Vince McMahon's favorite phrase for many years. So, but I said it online, people are going to believe what they want to believe. In my opinion, people who have common sense, logic, understanding, and the ability and the desire to research and read and find out, well, is this type of recovery possible in this quick a time frame? Yes, it is. All you have to do, you have Google, type it in, look it up. That's all I can say. But, there are people who don't want to believe that things like this are possible. They want to believe their own opinions, which 99.9% of the time are based on literally nothing. They have this perception in their head. This is what cancer looks like, quote unquote. Not so much, but you go ahead, live in your little fantasy worlds, think what you want to think, believe what you want to believe, go right on ahead. Because like I said, it's just, to me, it sounds like a very empty, lonely, ignorant existence, and I want no part of it. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about it. I know, there's probably some people listening to this that think I'm out of my mind for believing the storyline. Like I said, I've fact checked, I've researched, because this is something that I'm talking about on my podcast. I want to make sure I'm informed about it. And so I took the time to look and read and learn and find things out, and it's easy enough for any of you guys to do the same. There's this thing called Google. You type into the little box whatever information you're looking for, and you usually find it. And you can usually find a credible source for it. Like I said, look at the American Cancer Society's website. Look at a group called Leukemia Cares in the UK, who posted a very long thread on Twitter, explaining how and why this is possible, and just giving some general knowledge about leukemia. And, of course, people want to discount that. Oh, you take a Twitter post seriously. Somebody actually said that to me. You're taking a Twitter post seriously. You're stupid. It's a Twitter post from a cancer charity. So why are they going to lie for Roman Reigns? A cancer charity in the United Kingdom, no less. Why are they going to lie for Roman Reigns? Why? Give me one reason why. What, WWE made a big donation? So that's a reason to risk their credibility. I mean, logic, guys. It's a very rare quality nowadays, and a lot of people don't possess it. So, but again, it is what it is. People are going to believe or not believe based on whatever they think is true. And most of the time, what they think is true is, really just made up. There's no other way to put it. So that's pretty much going to do it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I hope nobody thinks this is me trying to be on a high horse or on a soapbox or say that I'm better than everybody else, because it's not. It's just, like I said, I've done my research, I've done my fact checking, I've given you what my sources are on this. I'm not holding anything back saying, well, sources tell me this happened. No, I'm telling you, I got the information that I have from the American Cancer Society, a group called Leukemia Cares, the American Medical Association. These are credible sources. They're factual sources. So if you want some information, look it up. And it's as easy as that. This isn't me spouting off opinions. This is me relaying facts. And I think a lot of people don't know the difference nowadays. But again, it is what it is. Believe whatever you feel is right. I'm going to continue believing what I feel is right. There's really no need to argue about it, because I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. So let's just agree to disagree and move on. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking all of this is gonna, wrestling fans have such short attention spans nowadays. Not all wrestling fans, don't get me wrong, but stuff moves so fast these days. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the whole issue will probably have blown over by the time WrestleMania gets here, and you won't hear too much about it. You'll still get the errant comment here and there. Oh yeah, but he's got leukemia, and things like that. But I will be very happy when this issue blows over and we can get back to just talking some wrestling. And yeah, I said wrestling. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, I hope everybody is listening and subscribing on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure you're following on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Just search Catch, Hook, Shoot. And as always, my email address is catchhookshoot@gmail.com. Happy to take any questions, comments, or listen to anything you guys have got to say about whatever you want to talk about. So just hit me up. So until next week, thank you everybody again for listening, watching, however you're checking the show out, and I will talk to you guys soon.